Hey guys, it is Julie here with JT Wealth. In today's video, we are going over some updates regarding the next stimulus package. So let's get into it. Alright guys, welcome back and thank you so much for being here. Like I said, today we are discussing the next stimulus package, specifically whether most Americans are going to receive a stimulus check at all, and if so, for how much. We're going to take a look at updates to the unemployment benefits and when we can expect this stimulus package to be voted on. And just before we get into all of that, this is just your friendly reminder that if you enjoy today's video, make sure you give us a big thumbs up and let us know your thoughts in the comments down below. Also, if you enjoy free stocks, make sure to check out some of the links in our description. Right now, Webull is giving away 4 free stocks just for signing up and funding a new investment account, so make sure to check them out. Now, it was back in April that we last received our stimulus checks, and since then, it has been an ongoing discussion and battle. So today, we're going to look at a couple different articles. There is a ton of news out there on this. I chose these ones because they were very recent and concise, but I know there's a lot of different sources out there, but we're going to see where we're at with this next package. For stimulus checks, is it possible that you're going to get $1,200, $600, or nothing? Lawmakers in Washington, D.C. are inching closer towards a deal over additional coronavirus relief, including direct cash payments to millions of Americans, and they will continue to negotiate this weekend. A $908 billion bipartisan proposal initially left out so-called stimulus checks, focusing instead on providing jobless workers with an additional $300 in weekly unemployment aid. But a last-minute addition to the package could include another round of payments of $600 for individuals, according to analysts with investment bank Raymond James. Now, obviously, that is only half of the $1,200 that millions of Americans received back in the spring under the initial $2 trillion CARES package. Now, some senators, including Bernie Sanders, have insisted that any new relief package includes another round of those $1,200 checks. Hawley said on Wednesday that the potential for a round of checks, even at $600 per adult, was a good movement in the right direction. But, he added, I think it needs to be $1,200. Now, negotiations are highly likely to continue through the weekend as congressional leaders scramble to reach a deal. As of right now, they have implemented a 2-day stopgap, so that averts the government shutdown until Monday. So this gives them time to work out and hopefully come to an understanding over the stimulus relief package and government funding. An 11th hour proposal by a Republican lawmaker had stalled negotiations on Friday morning. Senate Majority Whip John Thune highlighted a suggestion by Senator Pat Toomey to wind down the Federal Reserve's emergency lending programs. As of Friday, talks hit a snag over the inclusion of language that would restrict the Fed's ability to restart expiring lending programs in 2021 under a Biden administration. But Democrats argue that the authority is essential to continue to prop up the economy and say that the provision would tie the hands of President-elect Joe Biden's team. Now, the current negotiations are based on a $908 billion package created by a coalition of senators. But because that package included $160 billion in aid for struggling state and local governments, which Republicans objected to, as well as a liability shield for businesses, which Democrats opposed, the group split the proposal into 2 bills, essentially carving out the controversial issues into a smaller separate package that can be argued over at another time. Instead, the first bill would consist of a $748 billion measure expected to include additional funding for the popular Paycheck Protection Program and unemployment insurance, among other programs. Holding off on $160 billion in funding for state and local governments may be the key to finding support for another round of stimulus payments. An analyst from Raymond James wrote that the cost of the CARES Act direct payments was approximately $300 billion, so cutting the checks in half would come in at $150 billion. Swapping the $150 billion in direct payments for the $160 billion in state and local aid would create an overall bill in the $900 billion range that is being reported. The $748 billion measure would help millions of jobless workers by adding 16 weeks to the unemployment programs that are now set to expire at the end of December. The pandemic unemployment compensation, which had provided $600 a week to jobless workers until it expired in July, would be renewed with weekly benefits of $300. The plan would also extend a federal eviction moratorium by an extra month through the end of January. This package is far from perfect. There are major omissions, including a cut in the PUC from 600 to 300 and no continuation of paid leave, said Andrew Stetner, an expert on unemployment with the Century Foundation. Nonetheless, the proposal represents a strong down payment of assistance for unemployed workers in the entire economy. Now, Bernie Sanders did warn on Friday that he would not allow a spending package to pass if it did not include substantial direct payments for individuals and families. Asked by CNN if he considers $600 checks substantial, he refused to say. "I've said what I said," is what Sanders replied. So after initially demanding $1,200 checks, it sounds like he might be willing to accept a lesser amount. Other outstanding issues include whether there should be further restrictions on eligibility for the one-time checks, and whether and how long to extend the eviction moratorium, as some Republicans argue that providing rental assistance could be sufficient, but Democrats disagree. Now, of course, a lot of consumers are saying that they need a lot more than a one-time payment to help get them through this pandemic. Restaurant owner Stephanie Bonin told CBS Money Watch that our numbers are bigger than ever and the scale of this pandemic is almost limitless, but the aid is not. She has a change.org petition calling for Congress to provide people with $2,000 a month, which has received nearly 2 million signatures. Whether PPP, the stimulus checks, one by one, they have dried up and nothing else has been put in its place. December 26th feels like a ticking time bomb, she added, referring to the date when unemployment aid is set to expire for 12 million jobless workers. None of it's enough, whether it's $600 or a one-time $1,200 check, none of it's enough to answer the need out there. In the meantime, millions of U.S. families are struggling to pay their bills and layoffs remain historically high. Among consumers who have been affected by the pandemic, about 8 in 10 are concerned about the ability to pay their bills, with half saying they're worried about affording their rent or mortgage. Nearly 2 in 5 impacted consumers say they really need a future stimulus check and don't know how they will get by without. So as of right now, we will have to wait and see what the government is hopefully able to agree upon at the beginning of this week. Of course, stimulus checks would be nice, although many are hoping that we can fully open up the economy sooner than later. And hopefully with these newly approved vaccines, we are on the path to that. Of course, I always love hearing from you guys, so let me know your thoughts in the comments down below. Is a $600 check going to cut it? How do you feel about these unemployment benefits, and what are you hoping that the government agrees upon? If you made it all the way to the end of the video, make sure you give us a big thumbs up and that you're subscribed to the channel as well. I hope you guys have a wonderful weekend, and cheers.